Hey, welcome back. You're in the C Space Studio, sponsored by Salesforce here at CES 2023. We've got a great Salesforce guest in the studio with us, Marc Mathieu, co-founder of the Web3 Studio at Salesforce. Welcome to your C Space Studio.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Web3 Studio at Salesforce, it probably requires a few definitions just to unpack that and make sure we're talking about the same thing. So maybe first Web3, what is your definition of Web3?
So Web3 is really that new era of the internet, really underpinned by technology, which is blockchain and smart contract, but which moves us from what used to be Web 1, which was the internet of read. You could access information, yep, but you couldn't interact with it. That's the Googles of this world. To Web 2, which was more of the interaction, so read and write with content and with people. So that's the age of social platforms. And now Web 3 is more this era of ownership. You can read, write, but also own digital objects, things, data, on the internet. And that's fascinating because it's not only a new era of the technology, but it's also a decentralized, trustless, permissionless technology and even movement. I often talk about it as a movement that is happening just right now.
What does Web3 Studio then look like inside of Salesforce?
So Salesforce has been working on Web3 technologies, for a few years. I'm not an engineer myself. I come more from the world of business and brands and marketing. And I discovered in my role of strategic transformation and innovation for brands, I discovered indeed that we were working on Web3 technologies. And with a few other people, we decided to co-found Web3 Studio to prepare for the products that Salesforce would eventually release around Web3, NFTs, wallets, and so on, and build a go-to-market capability, do pilots with quite a few customers, build the ecosystem so that we can actually go into this bold new world.
So I imagine some of the things you're working on may be top secret, but what can you tell us about what is now and what is coming soon? What kind of technologies are actually out in the world that this is produced?
Well, what's interesting is that initially it all started indeed with crypto, and then there was the huge movement last year around NFTs, and everybody thought, is this going to last? Is this not going to last? In reality, the hype and the short-term, people looking to make short-term money is kind of over as the bubble burst, of the internet, of the Web 1, happened in the past. And what's fascinating is that now we are at the beginning of, I believe, where true infrastructure innovation is going to happen. And for Salesforce, what it means is, well, what do? We do CRM, and CRM is going to be, something also with this new set of zero-party data, of this new relationship. Really, we consider Web3 to be, in a way, a new relationship, a new way of engaging, with people. The big difference is that those people are no longer just consumers. They want to be co-creators, co-innovators, collaborators, and co-beneficiary. And that's going to be a radical shift in business and marketing models.
So would it be fair to say you're building systems to enable your customers to allow their customers to have more ownership in the things that are being kind of co-created there?
Totally.
Is there any kind of tension, I don't even know if tension is the right word, but is there something interesting about the idea of Web3 being decentralized, which you mentioned earlier, but you're incubating this within obviously a large tech organization, a very well-established tech organization like Salesforce, obviously very innovative, but it's still a central organization in some way. Is there some kind of tension there?
Well, the way we've actually built even our own Web3 Studio team is very decentralized. So we've tapped into the organization across industries and geographies to build a capability that actually is almost acting like a DAO, within Salesforce for Web3. But what's interesting is that indeed I often say decentralization is a movement because it goes, especially with those Gen Z, that new generation, it meets the requirement or the frustrations of a whole generation of people who have a very different relationship with trust, therefore with brands, with products, but also services and experiences, with ownership. I find fascinating that in today's world, people want to, they don't want to own a car, but they want to own their data. Who would have thought that it's more important to own your data than to own your car?
One of the things that we've seen a lot of in the last year, even just the last few months, is AI examples of generating content, generating visuals, generating text. Are you thinking about some of that in the work that you're doing?
So definitely AI is going to be one of the key elements of Web3. And when I think about Web3, I think about all those technologies that somehow are emerging and that are technologies that younger generations are using to interact not with brands, but initially with one another. ChatGPT is one of them. Yeah. So, because I assumed you would talk to me about AI, I asked that question to ChatGPT.
Okay.
Is ChatGPT using AI to create its own solution? Of course, ChatGPT said yes, but what was fascinating, the last comment in the answer was actually, nevertheless, it's still important that there is human supervision because sometimes it needs some editing and proofreading by real people. I thought that was a very nice comment from ChatGPT, from an AI.
It's nice that the AI is still giving a pat on the head to the humans that birthed it.
I think as long as the AIs, think human, are still important, we're fine.
Do you find that you're kind of dealing in this world of sometimes things that you're working on seem crazy, maybe they seem crazy to you, maybe they seem crazy to others, sometimes it seems like what you're doing is right on the cutting edge. How do you think about that? Are there things that you're working on that actually do seem crazy to some people, but you think are actually going to come to pass?
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, Web3 is going to go away. Just like, a lot of people thought the internet was not necessary because you could, watch a football game on the TV or, listen to it on the radio or, buy products in a store. And today we have embraced it. So I think what's interesting is nobody has seen yet the killer app, the 1,000 song in your pocket of Web3. And I think that's going to emerge in the probably 2 or 3 years to come. And it could already be here behind our nose. For instance, Starbucks Odyssey program could be the killer app. It could be the new way you build loyalty program using Web3 technology without talking about crypto, without talking about NFTs, and but engaging people in collaboration in the journey of collective ownership and rewards.
And how have you collaborated with your customers on this? You're talking about a decentralized organization of presumably Salesforce employees, but I imagine there's a much broader collaboration that has to happen. And what lessons can you teach us from that to others who might want to do a Web3 studio in their organization?
It's a very good question. There are several topics around that which we often talk with customers. First of all, Web3 always happens from the ground up. There is always a group of people that are more immersed into it, that do it in their private life. Those are the people you want to empower. But they also need to be covered, empowered from the top. If there is no mandate from the CEO or really from the very top of the organization, they will not be able to drive the change. So it's really both the bottom up and the top. And then there is, of course, because it reinvents marketing and commerce and the intersection of it, the CMOs, play a role, the CTO, but legal. We are rethinking when we talk about Web3. We're thinking IP, and that requires legal conversation. We are rethinking, financial participation with your customers and with all the other ecosystem participants. That requires conversation with the CFO. So it's really an ecosystem of conversations.
Just to throw out a hypothetical, I'm thinking of this off the top of my head. I'm a tech executive. I'm in someone's Salesforce database. I get contacted because they want to do some kind of a demo with me. Is there a future now where I can kind of co-collaborate with that person who's contacting me and take some kind of ownership or benefit from the product because I, as the person being demoed, am somehow part of the building of that thing, and there's a way to tokenize that?
I think it's a very good question. I think that the tokenization, of anybody who contributes is on the table. So I would love to talk about that in a few years' time.
I'm just spitballing ideas here, but I really appreciate your willingness to engage in this conversation and talk about the future and the cutting edge of Web3 at Salesforce.
Thank you.
Marc Mathieu, SVP and co-founder of the Web3 Studio at Salesforce. Thanks for joining us here in the C Space Studio, sponsored by Salesforce, in fact.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode, our interview here in the C Space Studio. But more great conversations from CES 2023 are just ahead. I'm James Kotecki. Keep it here.